Greetings, YouTube. Greetings, everyone. And please welcome back my regular guests, Koki Pirate.
Howdy ho.
And James.
You know who I am, and you know in which year I was born. Learn to live with it.
Okay. And this week, we have been mostly watching The Smugglers, which I've actually watched two versions. I've watched the Telesnap reconstruction and a fan animated version where I guess they've done their best. And this is another one where I think, because obviously, just as when they do cowboys, you have certain expectations. When they do pirates, you have certain expectations. But you can't really have a swashbuckly Telesnap reconstruction. It doesn't really work. It's sort of like, Although an interesting piece of fan trivia is that Captain Avery, who of course is mentioned as the previous captain of the Black Albatross, etc., is in the new series, an episode called Curse of the Black Spot. Not a popular episode, I'll admit, but I like that connection, the fact that when the writer, I forget which writer it was, when someone mentioned it to him, he had no idea, he'd never heard of it. So yes, and the connection. And the Doctor doesn't mention it well. I think the Doctor has started to forget things, because it's been a couple of thousand years for him.
Yes, it's because the Doctors forget. Sorry.
So anyway, Goku Pirate, your thoughts on The Smugglers?
You know, and I really like pirates. I really, really like pirates, but this serial just had a complete inability to retain my interest. It was just like, there was an instance where I went through the whole 20-something minutes, and I'm like, wait, what was this about? And I had to watch it again, because, I don't know, I guess because it's a recon, and this seems like it would probably do better. Like, this particular one would do a lot better if, it weren't just still pictures. You mentioned an animated one, but it seems like the animated one was even worse.
They didn't do as good a job as Ian Levine did on... it's like the animating program. It's like, basically, they can't do hands. Now, that's a huge problem. And it's like the hands, they're floating. And when they do the sword fights, it's just bizarre. It's really kind of like, okay, this editing program, this animation program he's using could be okay for, like, comedy sketches and stuff. But when you can't do things where and some of it's drawn a bit strangely, the TARDIS console in particular, but at least it was moving, so I'd say it swings and roundabouts, to be honest, but I watched both in full, and I agree, there's nothing really that grabs you about this, there's nothing particularly memorable, it's not a very fun, at least Curse of the Black Spot had a lot of swashbuckling, piratey fun in it, even if it was basically bollocks. And yeah, this plot didn't really grab me either. And James, your thoughts on The Smugglers?
Last week or the week before, Alex, I can't remember exactly when, you said, you realised, oh my god, you'd completely forgotten the Celestial Toymaker. You'd forgotten that it existed, which, as you said at the time, is the most damning condemnation of all. To simply forget that a Doctor Who serial exists. And not only I, but Mr. Setter, the person who runs the Daily Motion channel, which I usually use to watch Doctor Who serials, last week, when you asked me to send you the next serial for yourself and Koki, I sent you The 10th Planet. Because both I and Mr. Setter, the Daily Motion channel, had forgotten that The Smugglers existed. if you look on the Daily Motion channel, it's not there. It jumps straight from the Savages jumps straight from the War Machines to the 10th planet, and I had to. Oh yes, this is Ben and Polly's first serial as companions.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, oh yes, there are. Why are they called the calling it the smugglers? Surely calling it the pirates would have been more appropriate. Well, even if it wasn't appropriate, kids like pirates.
Exactly. Yes, that would have more of a pull. Although they'd.
The main thing I remember about this serial is it's the first time that the Doctor and companions just happen to arrive when a crime is committed or something goes horribly wrong. And they're the ones who are suspected. I say the first time, emphasizing the first time. We've got a long and arduous trek ahead of us in that respect.
It's not that bad.
Oh.
But in any case. Well, actually, having said that, I don't know quite how often it happens in the Troughton era, but by the sounds of it, a lot. As I say, this is my first time going through them all in order. But
trust me, this is my second time going through it all in order. Third, actually. Yes, third. I'm watching it myself on my own. I'm currently up to the Tom Baker era, so yes, this is my third time, and oh god, it gets so repetitive. But it is quite literally to Cokie. It is quite literally. Oh, and will Barbara be almost raped this week?
The original audience would have had 4 weeks to forget. So but yes, if we watch it the way we're watching it, then
Cokie said in the pre-recording chat that he doesn't mind spoilers. This isn't really much of a spoiler. If Cartmell's catchphrase as the first Doctor was then Troughton's catchphrase as the second Doctor is, oh, why won't someone listen to me? Why won't you believe me? I didn't do it.
Kind of Space Quincy.
Yeah.
I don't think it's not like it does. It's not in every serial. That is an exaggeration.
It's not every serial, nor is it every other serial. But for the love of the great holy donkey, couldn't you? It is
not all men.
Yeah, it is definitely a trope. It qualifies as a trope. But anyway, getting back to the serial, this is so. What did it? Because I wasn't here last week, Cocky, what did you think of Dodo's departure and Ben and Polly being the new companions? Were your companion senses tingling during the War Machines, thinking, hang on a second, now that Stephen's left?
Dougie?
Oh, sorry. No, I'm still here. Yeah, sorry, I had the mute button pressed. Repeat the question?
Yes, what did you think of Ben, specifically last week, Ben and Polly in the War Machines? Were your companion senses tingling? That's what I call it when I think, hang on, this person or these people are going to be the new companions.
Well, it seems like they're set up as the companions. I don't want them to be. I already said, last week, I don't like this guy, and the girl's not much better. Okay. It began with them being like, we're going into this phone box, give the Doctor his key. And he's like, how dare you do this? Like, jeez, man. It's not like they would have known. And yeah, now, of course, they can never go to London again because that's how the TARDIS works.
Oh, yes, that's right. If you have people on board the TARDIS, 1960s London, that's the one place the TARDIS is incapable of going. Indeed, yes.
Yeah.
So they are the new Ben and Polly in that regard.
Oh, no, you mean Ian and Barbara there, sorry.
The new Ian and Barbara, yes. Sorry. Watching The Smugglers a second time, Ben actually said the sentence, Polly put the kettle on.
Oh, yes. This is something I want to... this is something I want to point out. Morris, Doctor Who man, is, as we all agree, is the most Cockney man alive. Wouldn't you say that, Alex? Before he was born, Michael Craze was the previous holder of that title, the actor who played Ben.
Yes, Ben is unbelievably Cockney. I think he gets more stereotypically Cockney, if my memory serves.
I can't even.
I can taste jellied eels when I hear that man's voice.
Exactly, as I say, before Morris was the most Cockney man who ever lived, there was Michael Craze.
Indeed.
And of course, Polly, in contrast, has to be a stereotypically posh, public school educated, upper class girl and be called Duchess in the most Cockney accents known to British television at the time.
Yes, indeed. But
Polly put the... Oh, God, that line.
Yeah, they were seriously taking the piss there. But anyway, Koki, what in particular do you dislike about them?
Well, I guess, I talked about when they were introduced last arc, she just came off as a bit harassing, and he came off, as this whole macho, let me beat this guy up, and then say, be careful of who you provoke, and, it just seemed like, not so much teens at the time, but a caricature of teens at the time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like, just oh, go ahead.
It's exactly the same problem that they had with Dodo. White middle-class men in their 30s, 40s, or even 50s trying to write teenagers to sound cool. Trying to make people sound... So Dodo started off with her Manchester accent because it sounded more like Liverpool. They were using words like dear, making us want to stab her, or maybe it was just me. And now with Ben and Polly, they've deliberately cast the most Cockney man of his era, and even though even the whole scene in the War Machines with the nightclub, the Inferno, that was just completely superfluous. The only reason it was there was to show, look, we are aware of modern swinging culture.
Well, of course, it is interesting because so much changed in the 60s.
Exactly.
So that leaving 1963 London and returning to 1966 London, it's more like a decade has passed in terms of particularly London.
Oh yeah, as I say, it was the writers, etc. As I say, the 30, 40, 50-year-old men who had grown up during the war, trying to understand this massive culture shock that was the 60s. Yes, in the 50s there was rock and roll, there was the rock and roll revolution, but it was nothing like this. And speaking of social commentary, or we in the 21st century looking back on the 1960s and judging it as only social justice warrior cultural Marxists can, the character of Jamaica in this episode, another trope that we're going to know and revile in the Troughton era, the black henchman.
I had completely forgotten about him, but yes, he was a trope.
Yeah, the stupid, superstitious black henchman who gets horribly killed because he is stupid and black. But in contrast to this serial, The Smugglers, was directed by Julia Davis. Or is it Julia Davies? But either way, it was a woman. So first gay Indian man to direct Doctor Who, first Jewish woman to produce Doctor Who, the very first producer, Verity Lambert, and now we've got a woman directing Doctor Who. So it's something so there's definitely something there in the plus column, but for the love of the great holy donkey, that character Jamaica.
It's not the most cringe-worthy representation of a black character in 60s Who.
Oh, no. As I say, that the best or worst is still to come in that regard. Why do I love the Troughton era so much?
Yes. Well, I was listening to a podcast the other day where they called the Aztecs racist. And I'm like, oh.
No.
If they thought that was racist, I just think they're going to think of some of what's to come.
Yeah.
Yes, there is face-aching, cringe-worthy, but we're going to get in the words of Davis.
The evil of the Daleks, the evil of the Daleks. But no, that's the title of the serial, Kirky. But
yeah, I figured that much. I was thinking, we talk about all of the human races being depicted poorly, but how badly are the Daleks misrepresented? Just saying.
Are you saying that? Are you making the not all Daleks argument? There are. The thing is that the moderate Daleks don't speak out though.
Alex. Even though the serial is quite a few weeks away in our time scale, years away. Over a year away. One season away. I was talking in the original context of being broadcast live on British television back in the 60s, a year away. But the evil of the Daleks, just as the character of Jamaica is counterpointed by as far as I'm aware, the first female director of a Doctor Who serial, the grotesque racism in that serial is countered by the fact that we do see good Daleks. so you see portraying the moderate Daleks there and putting an end to Daleks.
Even the Daleks need, janitors and gardeners and people who do the plumbing. I'm just saying,
in the new series, if you remember the end of the Eccleston era, they bring out a blowtorch Dalek with a cutting flame to cut through the door. When you think of all the multi-functions that a Dalek is capable of, but there must be a demarcation thing when it comes to blowtorches.
Yeah, again, I'm pretty sure at some point in Classic Who, Daleks use their weapon, their actual blaster, as a laser beam to cut through metal. I would be surprised if it doesn't happen at least once. So why would you have a specific blowtorch except to show off?
They hadn't unionised yet.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, and it's not just the Daleks. All aliens seem to fall into certain tropes and stereotypes. It's really very sad. And let's not forget the fact that, aliens are devastatingly underrepresented in media, given the scope of the
Yes, we've got to remember that as feminists, our greatest crime, Cocky, is that we fail to represent alien races such as the Daleks and the Cybermen.
So we're coming all the way back to the alien Bechtel test. I point out that not only have we agreed that the Smugglers is forgettable, half of this podcast hasn't been about the Smugglers.
Yes, Ian should be on this podcast, seriously.
Well,
Ian, come and talk to us about card games.
now. Right. Yeah. Well, is there, Koki, any more about Ben and Polly?
Just, I hope they get better. And the whole, I get the whole no way thing. But
that was beautiful. Well, it's a trope, but it's completely believable, and B, it's just so adorable. First, Stephen with no, this can't be the 11th century. The Doctor picks up a Viking helmet. What do you think this is then? A space helmet for cows? And then we've got Dodo thinking that the Ark with the jungle is Whipsnade, the zoo or wildlife park outside of London. And now we've got Ben and Polly saying, no, it's London, 1966. Look, there's a church. Churches like that were built centuries ago. There is no way to tell the actual time.
Something that I guess this is the case with Doctor Who in general, but I think it was most pronounced with this episode and also the Gunslingers, the horrible one. What's it called again?
The Gunfighters.
Yeah. Gunfighters. The whole Doctor going to a dentist in the past because why not? In this case, it's like, oh, can we have a place to stay? How crappy must the TARDIS be to live in that you would prefer a 16th century
No,
really?
The tide had come in. They couldn't go back to the TARDIS at that point.
Oh, yes. Now I remember.
So that happens in both the Time Meddler and the Smugglers.
Yeah. Oh, you've got to remember in early to Hartnell, the number one premise, the contrivance of the serial was always, how are we going to stop them just going back into the TARDIS and going somewhere else this week? So, being trapped in a tomb in the Aztecs, rubble falling on it in Dalek, occupation of Earth. Starry Nation going to his deathbed saying, Nazis, bloody Nazis.
I'd also say that even if it weren't for the separated from the TARDIS by tide or something crashing or what have you, if you go on holiday, you don't spend all your time in the car.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The whole point of Doctor Who is if they just stayed. Well, no, actually, that would be very interesting considering that the TARDIS. They haven't established yet that the TARDIS is infinite. They don't really do that until the Tom Baker era. But
well, yes. Unfortunately, the precedent thus far for a bottle episode set entirely on board the TARDIS is one that very few people like.
Yes, for obvious reasons, but that's just the same kind of contradictory, almost ironic narrow-mindedness. You're in a space vehicle, a space and time vehicle that can take you anywhere and take you any time, any place, and you always end up on Earth. You're always either in contemporary London or Victorian London. You're always on planets where the villains are human and the victims are not humanoid, as if you're trying to make some moral point about judging a book by its cover, etc., etc., etc. It's just the way science fiction is always limited by the constraints of the human mind, not just the mind of the audience, but the mind of the writer himself. This is where the saying that the truth is stranger than fiction comes from, because the truth can be very badly written. It doesn't have to make logical sense. It doesn't have to have any kind of meaning and purpose. No, I'm not going to make off that remark. But it can just be weird, and it doesn't have to make sense to us at all. But no, writing a story. So yes, the TARDIS, whilst big, what exactly is going to happen in there? It'll all be about the dynamic between the characters. This is why I said Deep Breath should have been in the TARDIS. It should have been the dynamic between Clara and the Doctor, instead of using lesbian couple and robots by cyborg thing as analogies or examples or sounding boards or mirrors for their for their emotional conflict, etc., their angst, or whatever term we wish to use. But
speaking of writers, apart from past couple of seasons, past couple of serials, the name Kit Pedler has been appearing, and I noticed on the end of this that the name Jerry Davis has also appeared, and I believe they team up to write the next serial, The 10th Planet, and that's one I'm excited about. And I suppose it's time. Well, I think we've all agreed there's not much to say about the Smugglers.
Yes. Actually, the ending confused me because he said the coldest place on Earth. Is he just mistaken?
Ah.
yeah,
Well, actually, you don't mind spoilers. No, he does mean it is somewhere on Earth, even though the serial is called The 10th Planet. They have landed somewhere on Earth.
Yeah.
And yeah. Okay, I think we've agreed that there's not much to say about the Smugglers. So, well, I guess it's final thoughts and goodbyes. Yes, I'm excited about the next serial.
Oh, sorry. Well,
no, that's it, Carol.
My final thought is that yes, the Smugglers is so completely forgettable that, as far as I'm concerned, the 10th Planet is Ben and Polly's true introduction. This is when they start to really shine as characters, as far as I'm concerned. Of course, Cocky hasn't thought much of them to date because they are such walking stereotypes. But yes, roll on next week. And yeah, that was the other thing I wanted to say. Which is the most forgettable, the most tedious, the most not necessarily bad, but mediocre Doctor Who historical to date? This, The Smugglers, or the French Revolution?
Aha.
And may the great holy donkey bless your house for 7 generations.
I was wondering where the donkey was going to come in. And Koki, your finals, because James pushed in. Koki,
I completely forgot what this podcast was about. So may the hamster of selective memory rest upon your head.
So I think one about the Snugglers would have been more interesting. But, yeah. So,
why did you call it the Pirates? Come on!
Yeah, anyway, so, good night, YouTube. Good night, everyone.